Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the East Brandywine Township Board of Supervisors AM meeting for Thursday, September 5th, 2024. Just a reminder, a recording device will be used during the meeting, and we're going to open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any public comment for agenda items? And I'll remind everybody, rules of conduct for the meeting established by Resolution 2001-08. The time allotted to each individual making a comment shall be 3 minutes unless otherwise set by the presiding officer. Additional public comment may be granted to the discretion of the presiding officer at the conclusion of the meeting. Any public comment? Being none, we're going to move on to, I'm going to do a swearing in of officer.
Mr. Chair, could we go to the next one?
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we're going to move on to the minutes. Chief, just let me know when you're ready.
Yep.
We're going to move on to the minute meetings of the previous meetings.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the August 15th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the treasurer's report, authorization to pay bills and approve payroll. I've had a chance to look at it. I'm assuming you guys have as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer's report and authorize to pay the bills and approve the payroll.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we're going to go ahead and move on to new business. Presentation of Bondsville Mill for their strategic plan, and I'll turn that over to Jim Lasala.
Good morning.
Morning.
I provided you our strategic plan for Bondsville Mill Park looking forward last week. I hope you guys have a chance to take a look at that.
Your mic on?
It is. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. I guess a foot closer helps. Anyhow, the park purchase the park was purchased by the township in 2005, and the park has been developed with strong volunteer support from that time on, and we followed the master plan that the township paid for to develop in 2010 very, very closely. We're at the point, perhaps it's a watershed moment, where it's worth pausing to take a look at what our accomplishments have been and to look at what's left to do for the park and to align our vision with you with regard to what it is we have left to do to finish the park development. So the purpose of the strategic plan is to evaluate the progress made to date, and with that in mind, set a path forward towards completion of the park project as a whole that aligns with the mission and the vision. There's a vision and a mission statement in the strategic plan. Very fundamental. I don't know if you guys want me to read that for the record, or I will. The vision statement is create a free, passive public park on the grounds of historic mill buildings with horticultural gardens, arboretum, and hiking trails along the scenic natural beauty of Chester County's Beaver Creek, collectively establishing the park as a piece of importance in local history while inspiring visitors through ecological conservation, preservation of historic buildings, and programs. The mission statement is, our goal is to inspire visitors to respect and care for nature and give them an understanding of the historic textile mill's operation, its significance to the community, and an opportunity to honor and remember those that lived and worked in this historic village. This 47-acre park now has a variety of features for its visitors, including natural wildlife habitats, gardens, picnic areas, 2 miles of well-marked trails, amphitheater, and a welcome center. I think it's worth summarizing the progress that we've made on the park project through the spring of 2024. The park was purchased in 2005 as part of an open space program. An historic resources report was prepared in 2006 by Wise Preservation Planning to understand the historical significance of the textile mill at the center of the park. And in 2010, a master plan was prepared by Ritu Associates to guide that development of the park. Buildings G and H were removed. Luke, could you put that map up, please? Thank you. Buildings G and H were removed, creating a concrete pad area in front of the remaining 19th century mill buildings. This is the current location of the Culp Garden. So that 1 acre area in front of the mill buildings was the location of buildings G and H. Those buildings were in collapsing state, and they were removed early in the project. We expanded the park to 47 acres in 2012 as part of the Stones family purchase of the Rothman property. That's the location of the milliner's house. Through the efforts of a dedicated group of volunteers, significant progress was made to allow access by the public. And the park was open to the public in 2014. So it's been open to the public since 2014 from dawn to dusk. At the time of the opening, the Building F section was complete. The building renovation work on buildings A and C was underway, and the mill buildings were safely secured from the public. Knee walls were retained from the exterior of buildings G and H to bound the concrete pad area in the foreground of the 19th century mill buildings. And a trail system was started. The white and yellow trails and the mill building trails were complete, and the blue trail was in the process of being routed. Installation of signage to discuss the mill history was installed, and clearing around the rehabilitation of the World War II memorial close to the existing parking lot was completed. Going on from there, the other accomplishments to date are that the rehabilitation of the spinning room, that's building A, to historical standards, allowing occupancy for public events. Significant rehabilitation of the mill building, the 3-story building C, including masonry work, construction of an internal frame to provide flooring and support for the roof and walls, insulation, cedar shingle roof, and most windows and doors. Installation of electrical systems to power buildings A and C and provide power to the Culp Garden. Installation of a well and water system to provide water at the park. Installation of a park identification sign by the road near the main entrance. Installation of picnic areas throughout the park. Creation of an apiary through contract with the Chester County Beekeepers Association to use the park for their programs, and they have been supportive of the nature library that we have at the park as well. Creation of an amphitheater for outdoor programs with landscape backdrop. Creation of a bird watch area. Creation of several gardens, including the 1 acre Culp Garden in the foreground of the mill buildings, the butterfly garden, the pollinator garden, and managed plantings throughout the core area of the park. Installation of a 39-space parking lot to support events and use the park. This is in addition to the previously existing parking lot that also services the residents of the row homes across the street from the park. We've obtained a determination of eligibility for the Bonneville Historic District for listing on the National Register, and the significance of that is that the state recognizes the historical significance of the Bonnesville Village and the mill is part of that. And that opens grant funding from the Keystone grants to support the rehabilitation work. Mechanisms of support for all of this work. We've received grants from DCNR, multiple rounds, Chester County, multiple rounds, PECO, the Hardy Plant Society, Mid-Atlantic, Wild Ones, Native Plants, Natural Landscapes, as well as the AXA XL grants for plants. The township, primarily for materials for the park development, including the building work and the programs, masonry contractor work, installation of heating systems, electric service installation, maintenance support for parking lots and grass cutting. The Bonsville Mill Park Volunteer Corps, most labor on building rehabilitation work, material costs covered by the township and donations, installation of gardens, donations, grants, and township support, along with significant volunteer work, installation of the picnic areas, and installation of the amphitheater, volunteers, and again, supported with donations and grants. Youth group projects have also supported development of the park. Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops at Downingtown area, school district senior project programs, and that includes Eagle Scout projects. Some of what they've done for the park, installation of park benches, trail installation, maintenance work, bird houses throughout the park, kiosks associated with both entrances to the park. They were Eagle projects. The garden maintenance, tree labeling system throughout the park, in part to obtain a designation as an arboretum for the park, and that was supported by donations and grants as well. Donations supported the park development, cash donations for the East Brandywine Foundation, service and material donations from Pennsylvania Hardwoods, the Moser Family Foundation, the Tree Connection, volunteer personal donations. So the volunteers have donated materials as well as their time. Organizations using the park, Cub Scout packs, Brownie troops, Chester County Hiking Club, Chester County Beekeepers Association, birding clubs, Chester County Master Gardeners, geocaching organizations, including Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops, the Wild Ones Natural Landscapers, Restore Our Roots, SPOOM, which is the Society for the Preservation of Old Mills. They're very interested in what we're doing there. Westchester Green Team. And the regional events that have been featured at the park, the significant regional events, are the Chester County Day in 2017, and we participated in the Chester County Town Tours program in 2018. So as you can see, we've done quite a bit. We've developed quite a lot at the park. We have quite a few connections into the communities, both locally and across the county, and that interest has generated support for the park. Looking forward for the strategic plan, we've discussed the gardens and have mentioned the Arboretum. The focus of the gardens is to have artistic appeal through 4 seasons while supporting ecological sustainability, opportunities for education through programs, as well as a passive education, while viewing and exploring the different ecosystems within the park arboretum. So there's a variety of gardens in the park geared towards doing that. There's the butterfly garden, there's the pollinator garden, there's Culp's Clearing, which is the most significant garden. There's a garden in the historic mill race as well. The recent addition of the 1-acre Culp Clearing Garden in the foreground of the mill buildings expands the scope of the native plant use by demonstrating biodiversity and ecological sustainability water-wise, no spray, naturalistic design, low maintenance. The demonstration of the importance of the interconnection of pollinators, invertebrates, birds, and humans will show visitors pleasing, low maintenance, low impact to the environment alternatives to lawns, with seasonal color displays and architectural pieces that reflecting back to the mill history. It will be a natural space where art and ecology meet. The park is part of the following programs: Monarch Butterfly Way Station Program, the National Wildlife Federation Certified Wildlife Habitat, the Certified Pennsylvania Pollinator Friendly Garden, and the Homeowner National Park Habitat. And soon, hopefully, Arboretum status. So future plans for the garden programs include Arboretum status. We have a current application that's being processed now. The Arboretum will provide both passive education and opportunities for active education partnering with other local community groups. Following the designation of Arboretum status, the park and Arboretum may be listed in the Philadelphia America's Garden Capital, a listing of 30-plus gardens located in the Philadelphia area. This will enhance visitor awareness and provide promotional marketing, which may enhance potential donations. Programming for children and families on the natural topics and showcasing, programming for children and families on natural topics and showcasing the history of the community. The garden and arboretum enhancements are expected to draw visitors from Chester County and beyond. Events, guided walks, and other ways to involve the public in our natural world will be planned. The Culp Garden will also support a setting for the Chester County Arts Tour, a historic building tour, arts and music events, township community events. These are all things that continue to build relationships with organizations from the region. And with that strengthening of connections and attention, will invite increased donations to the foundation to support what we're doing at the park.
Tim, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Can you give me a 5-minute recess here so I can swear in Officer Flood?
Sure.
And the reason why is because I want to get some of our officers back on the street.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Mark Cosi. I'm the police chief for East Brandywine Township Police. I am honored this morning to introduce the newest addition to our police department, Mr. Brendan Flood. Brendan graduated from Marple Newtown High School in 2011. He graduated from the Delaware County Community College in 2015 with an associate's arts degree. He graduated from the Delaware County Community College Municipal Police Academy in 2016. He's presently completing his bachelor's degree at Penn State University, where he is majoring in criminal justice and cybersecurity. Brendan previously worked at the Chester County Prison as a correctional officer, and he worked as a police officer in Spring City Borough. For the last 5 years, he has been working full-time as a police officer in East Pikeland Township. Brendan has a number of law enforcement certifications, which include advanced roadside impairment, drug interdiction, crisis intervention, background investigations, and he is a field training officer. Brendan is also a member of the Chester County Drug Task Force. And I would now like to introduce Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Kyle Scribner, who is going to administer his oath of office.
I state your name. Do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the laws and the ordinances of the Township of East Brandywine, the law enforcement code of ethics, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as a police officer with fidelity to the best of my ability. I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration to a person's race, color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation, age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability. If so, please state I do. I do. Welcome aboard. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Before I step away, one of our officers, Chris Musumeci, he's going to be leaving today. Today's his last day with us. He was formerly a Philadelphia police officer, and they have the option to return to Philly at some point, and he's made that decision. So we want to thank him for the time you served with us, Chris. We wish you the best of luck and stay safe. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Please feel free to exit at your leisure. Thanks, Jim. Sorry about that.
Jim, thanks.
I was surprised we just didn't wait for him to get in.
Well,
Okay. So to end the discussions on the gardens, significant expansion of the existing gardens at the park is not expected. I think we're pretty well built out with regard to gardens. The future focus of efforts will be on maintenance and on development of programs supported by the gardens. And over the next few years, we may need some labor support for the maintenance work. Programs. The park will support programming for schools, families, individuals related to the benefits of our natural environment and the history of the community. And we continue to partner with local groups for those programs. Restore Our Roots, the Westchester Green Team are two examples. To provide quality educational experiences for all ages with the opening of the new parking lot, the school groups will have access to the park. The parking lot was designed with school bus looping through it in mind. The current plans are to include the park in the county's Heritage Interpretive Network, which will provide opportunity for visitors to understand the mill and the associated village in the larger context of the county. So right now the county is developing a heritage interpretive network for all the historical sites for a broad range of topics in which the mill will be included. And that provides a connection through their network to other similar sites and how it applies to the larger context of the county. Trail systems. The trail system in the park total 2 miles in length and provides the opportunity for individuals and families to experience the outdoors and exercise while learning about nature. The trails run through an old Christmas tree farm, the White Trail, by an old water tower, the Yellow Trail, and into the area of east of the Bondsville Mill towards the next mill site along Beaver Creek, and that's the Blue Trail. Beyond experiencing the natural areas along Beaver Creek, the Blue Trail provides the opportunity for the hiker to experience and understand historic features such as the dam ruins and mill races associated with a mill downstream of the park. The trail system is considered complete. So looking forward, we're looking at trail maintenance, which is accomplished by volunteers with periodic assistance from the township staff and contract work when necessary. Most of the maintenance is done by volunteers. One thing that I did not include in the strategic plan, and I recall this after presenting this to you, is that there are plans to pave the area around Building A and the back trail across the back of the buildings. That was designed for that purpose very early in the project, and the stonework was laid and compacted by a contractor to meet the goals of paving that trail. We did not put the asphalt down because we knew we would be running heavy equipment across there and we didn't want to break it up. So that area has been prepared for asphalt, and in the interest of providing a surface that best meets the needs of ADA, we plan to pave that at some point. The Welcome Center, which is Building A, will be developed with storyboards and displays providing information regarding all park elements, including history and garden development. The regional mills will also be discussed along with its participation in the county's Heritage Interpretive Network. Restroom facilities. Currently, there are 2 porta-johns, not just one. There's a porta-john by the existing parking lot, and last week we just installed another porta-john by building F in the parking lot area, new parking lot area end, and that is ADA accessible. So we have a porta-john at each end of the park entrance. With additional visitation expected with larger programs that will be allowed by the recent addition of the parking facilities at the park, the need for increasing services for this issue has led to the proposal for a restroom facility similar to the one recently added to the community park. A self-contained unit with running water that provides tanks for water supply and temporary storage of waste. That's similar to the bathroom facilities you installed at the community park. And in fact, they got that idea from the research we had done. The cost of that type of facility is projected to be about $100,000 installed. And we expect to get significant support for that from DCNR paired with county grants, similar to what we did for the Colt Garden. Mill buildings. Significantly, Bondsville Mill is one of the few remaining mill sites from the 18th century in Chester County. This has been recognized with its being part of the Bondsville Historic District, which has received the determination of eligibility for listing on the National Register. Further, the site is planned to be a heritage site or interpretive site in the Chester County's Heritage Interpretive Network that's currently being developed. Obtaining the DOE will provide an opportunity for grant support for the remaining building work. Building A, which is the spinning room, currently has occupancy at the docent level, and we have been running programs in that building. It is mostly complete, however, the interior still needs to be completed. So that's an item looking forward. There needs to be some effort put into finishing that building. Building B was part of Building A. It was connected to C. So A and B were all one building at one time, and it was labeled Building B purely due to its state of collapse relative to Building A. So when Ritu looked at the site, that was broken up into 2 pieces with regard to planning for the park development. The north stone wall will need to be stabilized at some point, no matter what is done with regard to that area between A and C. that the back wall needs to be addressed. So that's going to have to be stabilized at some point. And a proposal for the addition of roofing and or a bridge has been discussed. And part of that feeds into getting A3 occupancy for Building A and the first floor of Building C. But significantly, a roof would address the concerns of water that lands on that concrete pad that was Building B, affecting the neighboring buildings A and C. So we need to figure out some way of handling the water that gets in there from precipitation and storm events, and that can be done with a drain system, can be done with a roof, which would keep the water out of there, period. And the benefit of the roof would be also to provide a potential connection between buildings A and C. And then in the plan, we have some details regarding the proposed approach for Building B. Building C, the mill building, significant progress for the rehabilitation of Building C has been made. Masonry work on the stone and the brick tower is complete. A structure providing several floors and supporting the walls and roof is complete. Most of the windows and doors have been installed to close up the building. A hot water heating system has been installed and it's insulated. The Parks Milling Shop is currently housed in the basement of this building. So in rehabilitating Building C, that was done with use in mind, use meaning public use. And that is consistent with the Ritu master plan. And all of the work done there has been done consistent with that goal. So we haven't done anything that would not allow that to happen. And I will also point out here that Rocky has worked very closely with Matthew Spellman, who's the codes officer for the township, to be sure that all the work at the park is done to meet code. And that includes the electrical installation, the heating installation, and all of the building work. So everything that's been done there has been done to satisfy the code for occupancy. Now we're at a watershed moment where we need to decide whether we're going to move forward with public use for this space, because it affects how we finish the interior, but also how we finish the exterior, because we're going to need to provide access with regard to ADA standards, and that affects how we finish the outside of the building. The roof for the proposed roof for Building B also affects how we finish the outside of the building, because some of the higher windows are along that roof line. So what is done, if we install a roof, those windows would be handled in a way different than if we didn't. So those are some of the decision points that have to be made looking forward. So decisions need to be made regarding its use to support the level of rehabilitation to finish the work. The core to these decisions is whether to obtain A3 occupancy for the two main floors of the building. And by the two main floors, I mean there's a basement, there's a first floor that is at the level of Building A, and there is a second floor that is at the level of the back trail, the trail that goes behind the buildings, and then there's an attic. We're talking about public use for the first and second floors of the building. It has the capacity to support a variety of uses, including volunteer staff working a meeting area, historical commission meeting area, and file storage. And this would be a huge benefit to the historical commission, as the volunteers of that commission typically can't get to the township building during the day to gain access to those files and to manage them and understand what's there. To have the historical files over in Bondsville Mill would provide easier access by the commission. And that's something that has been discussed with the Historical Commission, and they're very open to that idea. Other uses, potential uses, event space for programs at the park, classes, lectures, displays, meeting space, and other functions. Storage of historical artifacts, and a library. And these are just some of the ideas we've come up with. When we completed Building A to satisfy occupancy requirements, we did not envision a library going in there, for example. So there are other uses for this space that we may not have considered here. Buildings D and E. Those buildings hold a great deal of history surrounding the transition of powering the mill. This building area will provide the opportunity to show and tell the park's visitors about the steam and electric power that came subsequent to the water power used in Building C. After cleanup and refurbishing the mechanics, this area will be open to the public to demonstrate the intricacies of the mill's power plant. We had a recent visit from the president of the local chapter of SPOOM. SPOOM is a national organization, and he's the president of the Mid-Atlantic chapter. And he was very enthusiastic about the steamworks and the story that it could tell from the industrial standpoint. I'll also add that the boiler systems, we have two boilers there that are very significant in size. They were manufactured right over in Coatesville. So there's a local connection of the power to the local steelworks. Overall, for Building D, we need to construct a roof to cover and protect the boiler works and masonry. That's one of the first things that the representative from SPOOM said is you need to get this covered because these things are just rusting away here. And so looking forward, that is something that we need to take a look at seriously for that area. The front south wall will need to be evaluated to determine stability. It may need to come down. If so, we need to frame that side with a large window and then provide public access with signage. The ultimate goal would be to clean the steamworks up, get cover over it to prevent deterioration, and get signage up so that we can tell the visitors of the park the story of how the steamworks powered the mill. And I have some details in there about what's needed for Building E. But overall, for Building E, we need a roof over the boilers for the same reason that we do over Building D. And the coal storage is missing, but the iron purlins remain. So we need to cover all of Building E with a roof and restore the elevator railings. Now, Building E is the rectangular building at the end of the mill complex, well, almost the end of the mill complex. And it's a brick building that is in reasonably good shape, but it no longer has a roof. So we have something there on which a roof could easily be built, and we may need to extend the roof out from the back to cover the works in that area. So Building F, a section of Building F was rehabilitated prior to the park opening in 2014, which Carl Walker was a big part of that. We did that to provide an example of the remarkable clear-story structure of the building dating to the turn of the century, 20th century. Too many of the structural timbers were compromised to do a full-length restoration, but it was felt important to provide an example of what was there. It is currently used to store the garden equipment, including the park's tractor. Significant future work on the building is not expected. However, the following tasks have been identified. Repair the roof. There was a corner, it has a metal roof on it now, but a corner of the roof was damaged by the township on delivery of materials, so that corner of the roof would need to be repaired. So repair the roof and windows, install a door facing the parking lot in the clear-story style, and rework the west end doors, keeping with the clear-story style. So right now we have doors on the west end which faces out towards the concrete area between it and Building E. And I will state for clarity that Building F once ran all the way over to Building E. So that concrete area was the floor for that building. So you can see we've really truncated Building F just to provide an example of the architecture of that building. So those are the tasks for Building F looking forward, is to repair the roof and windows, install a door facing the parking lot in a clear-story style, and to rework the west end doors in keeping with the clear-story style. Okay, and the back section of the plan, we have a process for proceeding with the remaining work. And especially with regard to buildings D and E and B, there would need to be a discovery phase. Part of the problem in understanding the costs of the work in building D and E is we're not fully aware of exactly what's there. There are tunnels in the back, for example, stone arch tunnels and things like that we don't have a clear understanding of exactly what they are, where they go, and what kind of work is needed to go into those. So there would need to be a discovery phase that includes removal of all organic material, developing an inventory of all historical components, masonry, machinery, etc. This part of discovery may include excavation as required to expose discovered elements, and to provide CAD drawings and other documents for a report on discovery. So all of this work during the discovery phase, the investigation work, would be summarized in a report of that work, so that we can provide a complete understanding to you of what we know and what may need to be done. And then we would need to get committee level support. We would need to get committee level support for making the effort to go forward with the subsequent steps listed below. So all of this discovery phase work is really volunteer work. Okay, so that's no or very little cost to the township. The use phase is the next phase of the process, which would be use the discovery report to help determine the use for each building area, given an understanding that use determines construction scope and estimates. Once the intended use for each location is approved at committee level, we will ask for supervisor support for committee level decision on that use. The next phase would be the estimate phase. Undergo a thorough and accurate estimate for buildings B, C, D, and E, and other areas of buildings in the Culp Garden, and the Culp Garden. Breakdown costs by stabilization and construction. And once estimates are complete, we will ask supervisor support for moving forward. Stabilization phase commensurate with the post-discovery phase if there's an emergency. Stabilization of historical components at the committee level costs are established during the estimate process. And then finally, the construction phase. A budget's established during the estimate phase and the pace with available funds and volunteer hours. So the pace of the work, as it has always been, is based on the budget that we're allocated by the township each year. So in summary, the investment into this historic and unique park brings the opportunity to draw people to East Brandywine Township, where they will find the beauty of this part of Chester County. This attention, beyond the recreational and educational benefits of the park, beyond the recreational and educational benefits the park provides on a wide variety of topics, has the added benefit of increasing property values for our residents. This is the kind of park that people want in their backyard. I can't tell you the number of positive comments I get from the people that use this park that live right here in our township, beyond those that come from outside our area. It is the volunteers' goal to draw a wide range of visitors to enjoy the park and its history, completing our vision and mission. So immediately, hopefully today, I'd like to look at what we'd like to do for 2025 in the interest of developing a scope of work and a cost estimate that we can present to the Budget Committee, where I'm currently scheduled to meet with the Township's Budget Committee on October 1st. So over the course of the next several weeks, with your approval, I would like to develop a detailed scope of work and a cost estimate that we can discuss with the Budget Committee. I'd like to get your support for completing Building C for public use, A3 occupancy. So that's something that we can focus on in 2025. It's something that we're well along the way in completing, but we're at a decision point as to whether we complete at the A3 occupancy or not. And I'd like your support for doing that. And then Rocky will develop a detailed scope of work to meet the needs of that occupancy, including ADA access. And it also affects how the exterior is completed. Although this has not been fully resolved by the Bonsville Mill Park Committee yet, I'd like to get your support for the concept of a roof over Building B. The advantage of that roof would be to protect the neighboring buildings A and C from precipitation that lands on the concrete pad. And it would also provide a connection to the first floor of Building C from Building A. They're on the same level. The advantage of that is that would upgrade our occupancy for Building A to A3, because one of the shortfalls for Building A is that we only have one entrance. This would provide a second entrance exit. And it would provide an ADA access for the first floor of Building C. So I'd like you to consider providing your support for that concept, yet to be resolved by the Park Committee. And then long term, we'd like to look at public access to the steamworks of buildings D and E. But we would go through the process that I just outlined previously, starting with the discovery phase to reach that goal.
For building C, ADA compliancy, is that a ramp or an elevator?
The ADA would be, access will be direct to the second floor from the back trail. If we don't have the connection between buildings A and C, we'd have to do something else for the first floor of C. Connection with A would provide the ADA access for the first floor of C. So that would satisfy the ADA issue for the first and second floors. And I believe that Rocky has already reviewed that concept with Matt Spellman.
So you're ADA compliant coming all the way around the buildings with what's there? Because you're talking ADA from the parking lot all the way around to that level.
Well,
And you've got quite a slope coming up from that parking lot.
that is an issue. That slope is an issue with regard to ADA. The access to C, as things stand now, without building some kind of ramp system to feed into that slope area, or to eliminate that slope on the back trail, the ADA people would have to come through the garden and around A to get to C. And as I mentioned, we do plan to pave around A in the back of the buildings there. I have asked Pannoni to develop a conceptual design for a ramp-type system at the east end to address that slope, that trail slope back there. But I have not seen anything from them yet on that. So I don't know exactly what the conceptual design would be, whether it would be a straight ramp or a zigzag. And I have no idea what the estimated cost for that would be. But it is something that is resolvable. It's just something that I don't understand
Well,
yet.
I mean, I guess we would have to understand costs before, we can lend support. One of the things that pops into my head from a construction standpoint is that these buildings will need sprinkler systems, because you are considering putting some valuable artifacts in these buildings, and they're going to need to be protected. I mean, that's the first thing that pops into my head. Building C currently has old historical sprinklers in it. And I'm not sure, from construction standards, you have to determine what the actual use is going to be, and then from there, you kind of determine whether or not you're going to need sprinkler systems to protect these historical buildings once they're constructed.
The use is going to be public programs and meeting space. I mean, that's fundamentally what the use is going to be, as well as storage of historical commission files and artifacts, and not just artifacts from the mill, but artifacts from the township as well.
And I understand, and what pops into my head, and I'm just kind of speaking out loud, is the value of these artifacts. They're almost priceless if you're going to preserve them and store them in this facility versus storing them somewhere in this building. You have to consider, worst case scenario, what could happen. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there for
And to
consumption.
piggyback.
Well, I will.
Continue, to piggyback off of that, sprinklers means heating 24/7.
What's that?
Sprinklers mean heating 24/7 during the winter.
Well, we have.
Now you're heating the entire facility all winter long, whether it's being used or not being used because of the sprinklers.
We have a heating system in there now.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is this is gonna be an ongoing that has to be calculated into the cost of this too.
Well, the water system for the hydrants that are out in the gardens, the manifolds are all in Building C. So at the very least, some of Building C is going to have to be heated regardless. regarding the sprinkler system that you mentioned, Rocky has been working very closely with Matt Spellman with regard to occupancy and what we need to do to satisfy those needs, and what we've done meets those needs so far. Sprinkler system has never come up. So I'm not sure where the line is drawn as far as needing or not needing one,
Well, I
but
mean-
it was not,
In
it was not
commercial
mentioned.
use and stationary with public use.
I'm just bringing it up because of the suggestion that you're going to be storing some valuable artifacts in that building.
Well, in the Welcome Center, we're going to have artifacts in there to present to the public, to highlight to the public. I mean, the storage of the artifacts in C may not necessarily be available to the public per se, but what we do have in Building A will be available to the public and tell part of the story of the mill and maybe some of the regional story as well. And we certainly don't have a sprinkler system in Building A. And we've discussed Building A being a welcome center or a display area for some time now. I mean, it's currently a nature library, which I don't know if that
I mean,
plays into a sprinkler
there's
system
really
issue as well.
there's no point in us trying to vet this. I mean, this is something that, I think needs to be reviewed and understood with regards to protection of the resource that's being built and constructed, and the use that will be there, and the artifacts of value that will be stored there, whether it's sprinklers or a high-tech fire system, an alarm system that goes directly to the fire company. Things of that nature come into my mind. And it's, these are things that I think deserve conversation.
I don't disagree with you. I guess one of the questions I have is, can we get support for use of the building for some public level where we can make final decisions on how to finish the outside of the building that include ADA access or the potential for that?
But then that brings us back to cost. We need to try to understand what this is all going to cost. What's the budget that we're looking at supporting?
I understand. Initially, what our goal was to develop a master plan, an updated master plan, which would include costs. The issue with that is it requires a significant amount of time to develop costs for a number of different scenarios. And what we would like to do is understand whether you support use of the buildings, and then Rocky could develop detailed costs with regard to that you would approve. It's something that could be developed for discussion with the Budget Committee towards a work scope that we think we can complete in 2025.
Do you guys envision any of these buildings being income producing? Because I'm going to tell you right now, that will sway a lot of decisions in different direction.
I mean, I'll let you answer that question, and I'll.
Well, the current model for municipal parks in this township, well, we only have two, well, three, is kind of nonprofit. You have a very rudimentary fee for pavilion use, for example. I don't think you have any significant activity fees for the community park. And along those lines, and to simplify what we do at this park relative to what currently exists in the township, I mean, this is something that Luke has communicated to me as well, is he would prefer to keep things simple and for us to use a model that we're currently using at the community park. If we decide that we're going to start charging fees for various events and activities, then that is something that we would have to work, and it would be something, work out with you, and it's something that would be unique to this park.
I mean, just,
You have to be realistic.
District-
It's unlikely, even if you charge a fee, the revenue would be insignificant.
it's $100.
It would be insignificant.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what you presented, when I look at this, to me, it's a federal, state, and county level project. I mean, this can get big. And the concern is, you know, on a local level, for the local residents of this community, can we burden them with these types of facilities into the future? And, you know, that's the concern that I, you know, want to
Well,
bring about. And then for your ask, what you're asking, what is your ask from us right now today?
My ask is that you buy into the use model for Building C at least, so that we can focus on developing a scope of work and costs for 2025. That's my ask. And then looking forward, we have the process that has been laid out in the plan with regard to discovery, discussion of uses, your buy-in at each stage. So the immediate concern for me is that we understand what we can do for 2025, and our focus would be on Building C. So my immediate ask is that you buy into the concept of use and allow us to continue completing the building along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I, for myself, I can only say that I don't know that I'm ready to do that until we understand a budget and what we're looking at. You've outlined a potential use, but we haven't really nailed down that use, and we don't have a number applied to that use that the township's going to commit to. And listen, I understand the countless hours that have been volunteered out there, and it's commendable and it's amazing, and I certainly want to say that needs to be recognized. The concern that comes up is that sustainable? And we have to really take a step back. Like you said, we're at a watershed moment here. We have to kind of figure out truly what we want to do going forward. And with regards to the ask of Building C, I think we need to try to regroup a little bit on that and understand its use before we can lend our support at this meeting. That's my thoughts. Now, I don't know if the other guys think that way or not, but I think we have to maybe meet as a group out there and really kind of review what we're planning to embark upon.
Well, I think we're talking about two different costs here.
Okay.
We're talking about the costs of completing the development of the park, completing the rehabilitation of the buildings, which could be significant. And also, there very likely can be Keystone grant money there to support that work. And then, long term, once we're done the development of the park, we're looking at maintenance costs. And with regard to the buildings, I think we're looking at very low costs.
But we don't
I
know
mean,
what that costs
the
are.
work that's been done is very high quality. The roofs that have been put on, the cedar shingle roofs, you're talking, 50 plus years.
Well, I mean, there's different opinions on that. I mean, I worked with cedar. It's third and fourth growth timber. It doesn't last like it used to. But that's another story for another day.
This is three layers.
I understand, but it's still something to consider.
I'd like to ask a question, because we're talking about something that concerns me, and I don't want to let the conversation go without me asking my questions and throwing into the mix. That concerns the roof between A and C. I understand your goal this year was to weatherize, whatever you want to call it, Building C. And it's not completely weatherized or winterized because you're waiting to see what support you get for a roof or not a roof, or what, right?
That's one piece of it, but also whether we're going to provide ADA access from the back trail.
All right.
That affects
And
the
the
whole
ADA.
back of that building.
But that's not my real question is, the walls, the north and south walls that you referred to in here that need extensive work to be stabilized. Is the roof gonna lay on the top of those walls?
No.
So the roof is really just an umbrella
Yeah, kind of.
type roof.
Well, interestingly, the work done in buildings A and C, that roof is not sitting on the walls. There's a frame built within the walls.
Looks like it is.
And the frame helps to stabilize the walls
I-
as well as support
Is
the
that what
weight
you're
of the
gonna
roof.
do in B, or is it just gonna have a roof, a gap, and then the walls? Existing walls,
Yeah, there'll be a gap.
will be a gap. All right.
And there'll be a walkway under there.
But how does that fit in with the historic nature? Is that gonna hurt or help you as you go for grants?
Well, frankly, being able to visualize the roof line of the building that once was there, it might actually help, because you'll be able to see that building AB went all the way to C. I mean, and if you look at the west wall of C, you can see the roof line there, where
Yes.
it once met up. So that may actually help.
What is the residents of East Brandywine usage versus county-wide residents versus out-of-state?
That's very hard to say.
Because I think it's
can't-
difficult to say to East Brandywine residents, you're gonna fit the bill if 25% of it's county residents using the facilities. You follow me? That's where I think it would be more important to come to the conclusion that we're gonna need more state grants or county grants.
Well, as I previously said, there's development cost, and then there's maintenance cost. I think once we get into the maintenance realm, the cost to the residents is going to be minimal. And I think bang for the buck, the volunteer support that's been given to the rehabilitation of these buildings has provided the township with these buildings at an order of magnitude less than what the estimates were in the Route 2 plan, and the Route 2 plan was done in 2010.
I completely agree with it. It's amazing the volunteer work that's taken place down there, and it's commendable. And the concern then comes, do we have others coming up through the ranks to pick up the torch and run with this into the future? And, if we don't lend full support to every ask, are we gonna have, someone taking their ball and going home? And now the township is dealing with, a situation that we otherwise, would rather not be dealing with.
I have to say that the volunteers on our committee are dedicated. They have a vision for what they're doing. They're very enthusiastic. They have ownership of it. And they have a desire to meet the goal of their vision. I can't say what reduced support might mean to that. And with regard to looking forward, rolling sustainability as far as the volunteer corps, it's discussions that we've been having, and I recognize that as a concern. I mean, Sandy is the current lead for the gardens. She is a dynamo. I don't know where she gets her energy, but we need to start looking at somebody to sit with her to roll into her leadership position on the committee for the park. No, I think we can all realize that.
I mean,
that
no,
in 5 or 6 or 7 years.
I mean, this is,
realistically.
this is my first, venture into Bondsville Mill Park, and understanding the park and visiting the park and seeing all the ambitious plan that has been presented with the park, you know, we have to ask these questions. We have to understand, you know, is this truly the direction we want to go in?
Well,
So this is why we're, you know, you're doing your presentation and we're kind of, you know, having the discussion.
the one thing that we've done that has been outside the master plan is the level of development that we've done that has become the cult clear. And that was done with county and state support. But that was not in the master plan. The level of effort there and what that means, as well as obtaining the credential of being an arboretum, is going to connect us and draw more attention and activities. And believe me, those buildings will be used or can be used on some level. Absolutely. You know, as I mentioned early on, Building A, we had planned for that to be a welcome center. We did not envision the nature library being in there. What's in there? A nature library? We hadn't considered that. The point is, if there's space there and these organizations are coming in and making connections with us, there's a very high likelihood that we will find uses beyond the list that I gave in the strategic plan.
Jim, I want to wrap this up real quick in the next couple minutes, but I want Chief to add a little input real quick.
I just wanted to put something on the record. I work very closely with having a difficult time trying to understand what ADA access how do we get back to I would really look at it and consider
Elevator.
And two, let's elevate whatever part of that is. Okay, it's going to be easy.
I understand that, and I think the idea of an elevator has been thought about, but it's expensive, as you mentioned.
There's many different types.
And with regard to access to the back trail from the new parking lot, a zigzag ramp that lessens the grade and gets you to the top of that back trail would work, and I don't think it would be too onerous.
So I just did
Okay.
an ADA ramp for a residence, for a deck.
Yeah,
First level, it was over 50 feet long, zigzagged, the ramp.
yeah, it would
That
be
was
long.
first level.
It would be long.
So just keep that in mind. All right, we do have more things to get to this morning. We've been on this for over an hour, so I don't want,
Mr. Chair, may I, I'm going to refrain
Absolutely.
from comment on the plan specifically, but just kind of propose perhaps a course of action here. Thanks to the Bondsville Mill Committee for taking the time to put together an update to the previous planning documents to describe where we are and where they're proposing to go. They did so not only because it's a very good thing to do, but also because feedback they've gotten from the Budget Committee, which is very interested in not only planning for the next year, but the next 5 years. Unlike most plans that get to this point at a presentation before the board, it was developed internal to the committee and has not included advice and consent from the board. So my suggestion would be that we take the presentation and then, in order to preserve, just so that we have, that we're not deliberating outside of the sunshine law, I'd like to have meetings with each of you and consolidate the feedback into a document that can be provided to the committee outlining any changes the board may want to see to the plan prior to officially adopting it. Most items are not time sensitive, but next year's budget process is, as Mr. Buxala indicated, there is a pending presentation before the budget committee that is time sensitive. So my recommendation is that we advise the Bondsville Mill Committee that they will receive a comprehensive letter incorporating all the board's comments and ask for a revision to the plan that could be adopted at a later meeting.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, but I think proactively, homework would be working out some costs because, no one can just carte blanche say, yeah, let's go with this when we don't have any idea. I mean, we have zero idea of the costs.
Well, I think that's what Luke was referring
Yep.
to, the budget committee, because.
We would be.
But I think that more
2025
importantly,
is a
before the
different
budget
ballgame.
committee, I mean, I think the board
Right.
needs to have some type of an insight on that as well.
Right, because you got to set
Yep.
priorities.
Yep.
But
I mean, you got a new police contract.
Yep.
You need some personnel additions.
This is perhaps a bad position for a member of staff or administration to take, but I'm going to encourage us to, for a moment, let's not think of the numbers. What we have in front of us is a vision for the finished product of the park. Are we in agreement about the overall vision, regardless of the numbers?
Well,
I think that's the exercise for planning purposes. Understand, I don't mean to in any way diminish that it costs, but let's think about what is the finished product of the park.
And there's many ways I mean, the goal is to, educate the public about this historical treasure, and to somewhat preserve its integrity, but there's many ways of doing that, and without restoring every building. I mean, and those are the things to consider, like Dallin Forge Mill, when they came up through there with the trail, they just capped off the masonry and put a plaque there and said Dallin Forge Mill was here. That was a tremendous, draws attention to people, and people acknowledge that it was there, and, so there's a lot of, there's that way, and then there's this full-blown restoration that's being proposed, which I don't know that, that's where we'll have to figure out where we're going here.
What I said about property values was real. I mean, and the more this park becomes, the more valuable it is to the community. There is a real benefit, not just for the residents' use of the park, but for the residents that live in the township with regard to the value of their homes. This seriously is a park that people want to have in their backyard. This is desirable, and the bigger it becomes and the more connections we make to various organizations, the more value it will have. And as I said, the connections that we really are in a watershed now, in that we have the garden complete, we have our opening ceremony on October 2nd. We have a parking lot for increasing activities and programs. We're at a point now where we're going to be able to get into a rhythm of doing programs and making further connections with organizations, and to have usable space in those buildings will be a benefit that supports that, and a benefit to those connections and use of the park and increasing the value of the park, but also use by township people, the historical commission. Build it and they will come, which I know that's not an inviting phrase, but
That applies
that's
to baseball.
essentially what happened with Building A. I mean, we got occupancy for that. and we have a library in there now. Well, we didn't envision that, but the space was there, and the desire was to create a library, and it happened. With the increased usage of the park, with available space, it will be used.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up. We'll have Luke as our liaison on that, and then obviously the budget committee as well will be a big part of this decision-making
So
process.
we would need to reschedule our presentation to the budget committee, I guess. I think it would be
Would you just
helpful.
say you want to reschedule your presentation?
Yeah, well, our presentation with budget committee is October 1st. I don't, unless,
There's not going to be time to reschedule. We're on a tight schedule there.
well, that's a big factor here.
Should
I-
have something, but before the next
Yeah.
supervisors meeting, that will give you a direction, I think.
But we've got to give Rocky time to put together cost estimate and a work scope. Rocky's hesitant to delve into the details of this until he knows what direction we're going in. And I think we're looking at a fundamental, are you on board for use of the building by the public? Then we come in with costs. If you look at the cost and you say, well, that's prohibitive, that's a decision point. But we need to put something together in time to have a meaningful discussion with the budget committee on October 1st.
When's the deadline for the budget committee, Alan? You know, when will you need something?
So we'll need something, we can't go much later than that presentation. They're like the last up.
Okay.
All right, I got the schedule in here,
Yeah,
actually.
and then-
I mean, we have scheduled down to the day.
Yeah, so we've got to lock down a
Hey,
budget.
stick with the first then. There's no sense in changing that and losing a window of opportunity. We'll have an opportunity before that to have the liaison of Luke and give our feedback, and we can build up for that.
I mean, from my perspective, Jim, what I'd be looking for is say, we gave you guidance for this year and a spending number. How did you do against that? What's left? What's going to be carried over into next year? And then we would look at, whatever incremental costs would go
We have
from
to
there.
put together a working budget to present at a supervisors meeting by October 24th.
Right. So,
There's no extension time. I mean, this is state mandated dates that we work back from.
May I?
I'd also point out that there were two master plans provided a model for use and occupancy for those buildings. And it's towards that end, consistent with the master plan, that Rocky has been working with Matt Spellman to be sure that things are being done along those lines.
All right, and I'll reach out to Matt
So
as
we're at a
well.
point now where conceptually, we just want you to buy into the model that was in the master plan looking forward. And then, with regard to cost, we can certainly revisit what we're doing there. But I need to be able to give Rocky a clear answer for him to develop his work scope and cost estimate. And that's dependent on whether he's doing it focused on use by the public or not.
All right, we'll build this off with Luke.
Right.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Appreciate it. Alan, thank you for your input as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Luke now for the financial security release number 1 for Stone Mill Village.
All right, the next three agenda items are all very similar in nature. They involve recommendations from the township engineer. In those letters, the township engineer outlines how much money is set aside in some form of financial security for the construction of public improvements and land developments, and is certifying that certain improvements have been completed for all three developments consistent with the approved plan and the financial development agreement, and is recommending a release. That would be my introduction to all three of the next three agenda items. I would respectfully ask the Board of Supervisors to release the financial security consistent with the Township Engineer's recommendation for all three.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Like the Marsh Creek Homes, that's the final? So that's after this is releasing it after the period of time we hold it to make sure everything is okay? Like a road escrow or escrow for 18 months when you?
If I may, I'm sorry. If that only applies if something is being dedicated.
Okay,
Correct.
That's what I was trying to
So
figure out.
that would be a separate financial security for dedicated improvements.
So there's nothing to be dedicated there, okay.
And not in that development, no.
How about in the preserve at Horseshoe Meadows? There's nothing dedicated there either? Or
There
there
is
no internal road?
The only one that has the potential of an offer of dedication is for the first section
And they're just
of
starting.
the road off of Stone Mill Village, and that would be a long time from now.
Right. All right, I make a I make a motion that we approve the financial security releases for Stone Mill Village, Crawford Ridge, and the preserve at Horseshoe Meadows.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa.
Okay, this is also, it's also standard procedure. This is,
And Tom, you've had a chance to review?
I have not looked at it, but I presume it's a standard resolution which approves a planning module for,
it is a resolution.
Got it, understood. Okay.
Just by way of perhaps too much information, this development does have conditional preliminary plan approval from the Board of Supervisors. One of those conditions for all land developments is typically that they secure necessary outside permits, including those from DEP. DEP's application package has what's in for you now, which is just a boilerplate resolution that the governing body passes in support of their application for wastewater planning.
And so you're just looking for support then on that?
Yeah, I would recommend at this time we adopt Resolution 12, 2024.
This is not final approval.
No,
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 no.
no. This is just,
I mean, it concerns me that
The
the
sewer
solicitor hasn't had
planning
time
module.
to review it.
but why don't you make a motion subject to solicitor?
Correct.
There you go.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any public comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none, the board will meet. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Carl, do you mind standing up to the mic? Sorry.
My name is Carl Walker. I only have a couple of little comments, one comment, maybe. And it's my perception of Mapleview development and where the cars come out onto North Guthriesville Road. And I observed that they're parking along North Guthriesville Road. Now, it's clear that they have made a little cutout there for the cars to park along there. In addition, there's also a crosswalk. It's, kind of surprising, one, to see the crosswalk, because nobody walked across there, but the people are going to the park. And the other part is the cars being parked there on the street, which almost reminds me of Philadelphia. I'm just making this comment because it's something I observe every day. I live down North Guthriesville Road, as you may know, may And, you know, it seems like the developers just eking out every possible incursion into the community as they possibly can. And I've heard that from internal source of the organization. So I just bring that up to, you know, how did that kind of evolve? That the cars are being parked out on, basically almost on the road. They are off the road, but I would say it's a distraction because there's no other place along the road that happens. So I just offer that as a suggestion and question why that was approved.
Well, I can, let me interrupt you. I'll put it under the advisement of chief to let his officers know. First of all, I can tell you, nobody at the township has approved that. And maybe it's taken somebody like you to see it, day in and day out for it to get addressed. That being said, we'll leave it up to chief on how he wants to defer to his officers first, but second of all, if it continues to be a problem, I think it would be prudent for the township to require the builder to put signs up, no parking.
Yeah.
And that is a deceleration or an egress or
Yeah,
anything.
you can't park there. That's deceleration lane.
Right.
Well,
You gotta get signs up.
it started out that there was only one or two cars parked there. And I think this morning I went by and there were four.
Yep.
Yeah.
Four cars.
And that's-
So
They can't
it's
park.
now, I just see it as an unusual incursion. And at times, people are going to be pulling out that are parked there.
That's a safety hazard.
It's just a little comment, it's something I see that bothers me also. There's a pothole, I guess, on Middle Washington Lindell Road there at the curve. It's been patched, and there still is a hole there. And what happens is that people going down the road, in order to avoid the hole, have to move out into the road on a curve. So there's a curve coming around like this, and people are moving out around that pothole. It's just a small pothole, but it's, one evening, when that pothole started, which is months ago, 6 months, maybe more, I saw a woman standing on the other side by the guardrail, on the other side of the guardrail. It's approaching dusk. And she had hit that pothole. It was bigger then. She had two flat tires on that inner road side, on the right side of her car, the passenger side. Two flat tires. And she was on her cell phone, you know, sort of like, help, you know, it's getting dark, you know, I'm here, and cars are backed up, and it was a mess. I don't know why the state, I believe it's a state road, because it has lines, can't get that little pothole fixed up. So,
Have you called the state?
or,
Have you called the state? They have a pothole number. My understanding is they're pretty reasonable getting out to that pothole if somebody calls.
do you have the number for me?
No
That I
idea.
could call the state?
And
Just go on the internet and look up PennDOT.
1-800-FIX-LANE.
Okay, I could get it at the office, okay. I would love to call them.
Matt just stated it's 1-800-FIX-ROAD.
Oh, 1-800-FIX-ROAD.
And obviously, let us know if you get nowhere with them. We can try to
Yeah,
be a nudge.
and it's for the safety, you know, the roads are really getting tough around here.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Anybody else for public comment on non-agenda? Okay, the board is going to meet in executive session following this meeting to discuss real estate and personnel matters. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.